I will be focusing in on some of the areas that are very crucial for CMA's AAMA. And understand that my area of expertise is quite narrow and limited. It's focused on what you need to know about and how the medical assisting profession and CMA's AAMA can function and benefit from the program. The first issue is who can enter orders into the electronic health record for meeting the stage 1 and 2 measures. This really is the key issue for us, and I did report on this at last year's annual conference, and we do have some additional information that we are going to share. First of all, in the stage 1 final rule from CMS, there was only provision that licensed healthcare professionals were allowed to enter orders. And when I speak about orders, I'm referring to laboratory, medication, as well as radiology orders. In Stage 2, the August 23, 2012 final rule, after we had submitted testimony, the provision for who could enter orders was changed. It was expanded to allow, quote, unquote, credentialed medical assistants also to be able to enter orders into the electronic health record. This was the big breakthrough, and I think really is something that has, in this past year, demonstrated the significance of the CMA AAMA credential and has really been of great help to the profession. Now, the next question that arises is how does CMS define credentialed medical assistants? And at this point, I'd like Rob to come forward, and I'm going to provide my answers, and I'd like him to corroborate what I'm saying, because I've gotten some responses from people who've read my articles. They don't believe me. They think I'm mistaken. But I think we're going to disabuse people of that wrong notion. First point, credentialing must come from outside the organization of employment. And secondly, and very importantly, clinics, health systems cannot grant credentials to medical assistants. In other words, a clinic cannot just establish its own training course, give a 20-question test, and then say, well, we're abiding by the CMS rule because we educated these medical assistants and they passed our test, and therefore we meet the definition of credentialed medical assistant under the CMS rule. Rob, would you be able to speak to that, please?
So Don is absolutely correct. We are very flexible in what we define as credentialing. We are purposely so, and we address this in the Stage 2 final rule. The only real requirement that we place on this is that the credentialing does have to come from an outside organization. It cannot be the organization that actually employs the medical assistant. We don't say what that credentialing has to be. It could be, Don and I have talked about an academic certificate. It could be, we know that there's a wide variety of folks that have different type of credentialing. It just cannot be credentialing from your own organization. It has to be somebody outside.
Thank you. Another issue that seems to have been confusing is when does the CMS final rule allowing credentialed medical assistants to enter orders into the CPOE go into effect? The language in the rule states that for any reporting periods in 2013, the requirement for credentialed medical assistants is in effect. There has been sort of an urban legend that this really doesn't go into effect until January 1st of 2014. And of course, we're very close to 2014, so this will become a moot point in a few months. However, it is incorrect to assert that the CMS rule does not go into effect until January 1st of 2014. Rob, if you could speak to that, please.
So that is also true. We have called this out specifically in an FAQ, and I think actually Don has that FAQ number a little later in this presentation. It is important to note that this has been called out in a number of places in the rule. There are certain things that are not restricted just to 2014 in that rule. They are applicable to 2013. They are applicable to Stage 1. This happens to be one of them. There are some items that are specifically do not go into effect until 2014, but the issue of medical assistance entering for CPOE is not one of them. That has begun for 2013.
Thank you. Again, I have been told by callers that I'm just wrong, that there's nothing to worry about until January 1st of 2014. But they're the ones that are wrong, I'm sorry to say. Does the CMS final rule only apply to entry of orders under Stage 2 of the incentive program? The answer to that, and this is one of these FAQs on the CMS website, which is very helpful. It states that the final rule in regard to credentialed medical assistance applies to all stages of Medicare and Medicaid incentive programs, Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3, when that goes into effect. As Rob has just said, there are certain provisions that only apply to Stage 2, but this provision addressed in the rule from August of last year does apply to Stage 1 as well as Stage 2. So, Rob, am I correct in that assertion?
You are, and so this essentially means that for 2013, for the reporting period, all of those of you who are doing either 90 days in 2013 or a full year in 2013, medical assistants could be entering all of the information into an EHR at this point in time, including doing the CPOE.
Thank you. Finally, another question. Is this going to be enforced? There will be audits under the program, and the question is, will the auditors care about this dimension? So could you shed some light on that, please?
So as many of you know, when you use an EHR, many of them have an audit log about which user is actually performing which function. So when an auditor looks for documentation and looks at CPOE, they may request that audit log. They may take a look at who has actually been entering the information and use that to corroborate what CPOE was actually done to see if the numerator and denominator was calculated correctly. So that's the type of information that an auditor might ask for.